Hey there, guys. This is Flamsaron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and guess what? I watched another anime, but I actually watched this one before Suki Monogatari, so I don't know why it's taken me this long to do it. Just been busy, but I actually watched this with my buddy Stan, also known as Dream Sword, and it's called SD Gundam Sangokuden Brave Battle Warriors, or as I like to call it, Justice Fight, for a reason I'll get into later on. But I watched it with him. It was a good 50 episodes long, but it was actually pretty manageable for a specific reason, which again I will get into because, as you can probably tell, based on the trends of this channel, as well as the title and the picture and whatnot, I'm actually going to be reviewing SD Gundam Sangokuden Brave Battle War. I think it's Sangokuden, actually. Sangokuden. I keep mixing up the Sangokuden and the Sen. I think because Sengoku, I'm pretty sure, is like Nobunaga and whatnot, and this is Dynasty Warriors. It's basically Dynasty Warriors Gundam. Like, it's SD Gundam, but it's themed around Dynasty Warriors, and it got an English dub, and that's how Stan and I watched it. We watched it online. I believe it was actually on the official Gundam YouTube channel at one point, but they apparently took it down. It was apparently also on Cartoon Networks or Toonami in the Philippines. This is a Filipino dub, a Filipino English dub. It's really probably like the first foreign English dub I've actually watched, because I've seen like the big green dub. Obviously I am playing Dragon Quest Heroes, which has a foreign dub, if British counts, which I don't know if it does. But anyway, this is, I think, the first anime I've seen. For me personally, I'm not saying it's the first ever, but for me personally, it's the first foreign English dub I've ever seen for an anime. So it was cool. And I will go ahead and say the dub was actually pretty good. I think it came out in 2010. So it was definitely around the time when dubs were of a certain quality and had a certain standard to maintain. And I feel like the dub did a good job. One thing to note is that they use the Japanese readings of the names. Like, so instead of Liu Bei, it's Ryubi. Instead of Cao Cao, it's Soso. Instead of Guan Yu, it's Kanu. And instead of Zhang Fei, it's Shohei. It's kind of like Koihime Muzo, except I speculate that it was just a localization thing. Because I think with Koihime Muzo, they did that deliberately. It was almost like it was sort of like a Japanese retelling of it, in a way. Of course, even then, it didn't really follow Dynasty Warriors entirely. And this one is a bit more accurate to what I remember seeing in Dynasty Warriors. So, like, when Stan and I were watching, it was funny, like, he kind of had all, like, the Gundam info, and I had, like, all the Dynasty Warriors info. I was like, okay, so this character is based on this Gundam, and I was like, okay, this scene takes place here. Like, I'm no expert on Romance of the Three Kingdoms, but like I said, I keep saying Dynasty Warriors as opposed to it's a Romance of the Three Kingdoms themed Gundam. I call it the Dynasty because that's what I'm familiar with, Dynasty Warriors. And as you can probably guess, I guess, by my choice of example, Liu Bei / Ryubi. I'm probably going to use the Japanese names because to me it's almost like they're separate characters anyway. But yeah, the main character is Ryubi, also known as Liu Bei. Mr. Benevolence and Dynasty Warriors. And it's from his perspective, and so the beginning stuff is sort of like his stuff, like him helping people and whatnot, him forming the brotherly oath with Kanu and Shohei, i.e. Guan Yu and Zhang Fei. After that, it goes into a bit of a Yellow Turban thing, while also going over other Dynasty Warrior stuff like Sunjian. I think it's, I don't remember his Japanese / Brave Battle Warriors equivalent name, and I think they actually changed some stuff because I remember Zhuge Liang, or as I like to call him, Predictor Man, for reasons that aren't really that important. It's just really just an inside joke between myself and AJ. But yeah, I think his name is actually different. He actually comes in late in the show, and I remember he came in a little late in in the story of Dynasty Warriors 7, because each game they do some stuff differently. But at any rate, yeah, and they do fight Lu Bu and whatnot, and he's super powerful. I believe his name is Ryofu, which I believe was also his name in Koihime Muzo, or her name, technically speaking, because in Koihime Muzo everyone was a girl except for one fucking character. But yeah, so they fight him, and soon Junhee dies, and there's a funny bit about that actually. But after they do the whole yellow turban thing, it kind of goes more into like the romance of the Three Kingdoms section of like the actual like battle between the Three Kingdoms things. But they put a bit of a twist on it to where Soso or Cao Cao sort of portrayed as sort of like the antagonist, and it's ultimately he and Ryubi that have like the big battle. It's he, Ryubi, and I think Sonsaku is the who is Sun Quan or Sun Quan or however you say his fucking name. It's them, and they're fighting, and they fight in space, and Cao Cao dies, and they end up working towards an era of peace. It's actually pretty. It had been a while since I had played Dynasty Warriors, so specific details on like how similar they were, I didn't exactly remember, but I did felt like they were putting some twists with it, because there was also the plot point of like the sovereigns, like the three sovereigns, and like these like ancient swords that like give them superpowers. I'm probably messing up the story, so if you're watching this, Stan, sorry, but there is a podcast episode where Stan and I talked about it. But so I'll probably link that as well, because we did that one pretty early after our viewing. With here, it's actually been like a few months since I had seen it, but I do remember a few different things with it. Like I remember a lot of like the I almost said NPCs, a lot of like the background characters, a lot of like the non-main characters, because since it's SD Gundam, it's like as if the Gundams were actually like real and like real living things as opposed to being mechanical suits. But any of like there were still like all the Zakus and whatnot, and the majority of the main characters were basically Gundams, like the majority of the good guys. And I liked how Ryubi and Chon, or Zhao Yun, who's basically the poster boy of Dynasty Warriors, I liked how, I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but I did like how Zhao Yun, or Chon, or whatever, I liked how he kind of looked like, because like the main mobile suit in the Gundam shows have like that specific look to them. I feel like they kind of they're designed sort of similarly, and I kind of liked how Chon and Ryubi's had sort of like a similar design. Obviously, they do look a bit different, but and their certain characters' weapons were pretty faithful. Like Kanu is probably the most faithful to his Dynasty Warriors counterpart, with like the green armor and like the long beard and like the long pole arm. Of course, I feel like that's very standard for Guan Yu. That seems to be a very Guan Yu, like that seems to be like his standard design. I think that's how he looks in Smite as well. And I am also glad that they kept the whole thing of him switching over to Cao Cao's side for a little bit or so. I'm going to kind of go back and forth, because we actually did watch what we thought was a movie, but it ended up being an OVA, and it ended up being in Japanese, and the subtitles called everyone by their Japanese names. That's partially why I think the use of the Japanese names in the dub was a dubism, but at the same time, like I don't know for sure. For all I know, it could have been intentional, because again, I'm pretty sure that's how the names are read anyway. I'm pretty sure in Dynasty Warriors that if you put the Japanese dub on, they'll say Ryubi instead of Liu Bei. Like they don't katakana it. I think it's just like a separate reading thing. And they're probably just taking the Chinese letters and like reading them differently, but that's not important. So yeah, a lot of it does obviously it takes place during a war, basically. But in the background, it seemed like the focus was still on like the Three Kingdoms battle for like the unification of Mauritia, which is the name of the world they live in, basically the unification of China. But and also it was a bit more I think it was changed in that it seemed like, from what I remember, So was actively looking for Ryubi and wanted him to join. Or he wanted like his weapon. So basically just wanted power, from what I remember. And so I think that's sort of where it deviates a little bit, to where I feel like the Romance of Three Kingdoms and Dynasty Wars, it was more about the differing ideals and the which, well, I take it back. Yeah, that was still present in Brave Battle Warriors, I think. I'm losing my mind. Whereas like I keep saying, Ryubi, he's all about benevolence, peacefulness, and whatnot, and being the pacifist. And of course, he has that whole thing where he has to learn, it's okay to be a pacifist, but sometimes you have to get your hands dirty to do what you got to do. Sometimes you have to fight people to defend others. And Sosa's all like, power, power, power. I look like fucking Batuku Nitsumaru from SD Gundam. Not really. He sort of does, but he doesn't use two katanas though. Speaking of which, one thing that I noticed about him was that his voice seemed to change a lot. Like, there were times where he did what sounded like a typical Dynasty Warriors South impression, but then he went to like sort of like this gruffer sort of version of it, like he was squeezing out a poo poo. Or not, maybe squeezing out ketchup or something. Like, it sounded kind of more down here, where there'd be times where it would be around here. I'm not doing it justice, but the dub in general was pretty good. Stan and I have like this joke that Shohei is voiced by Eilich Guardiola, who we actually know because we interviewed him on the podcast. So like, is that Eilich? Which he actually sounded really close to Eilish. I have no idea if Eilish took part in this. And if you are watching this, Eilish, and you did take part of this, then good job, man. You did good. That's good for those who don't understand my weird language. The music was also pretty good, from what I heard. I don't remember too many specific tracks besides the opening and the ending. The opening was a vocalist theme. It's like that. I'm not doing it. I hear it in my head though right now, which is the funny thing, and it's like it doesn't translate very well. But then the episode title thing was like, and they would sometimes play it like during epic moments. And of course, probably the most epic song of all time is a little song that goes like, "Justice fight, the brave legend. Say naru nakuchi." It's like such an awesome song. It's the ending theme song, and they play it all the time, no matter what the situation is. During the part where Son Saku's father dies, like Sun Jian dies, and he's all like, "Sun Sa, you have to take over. Take my scarf and my sword. You have to carry the Wu legacy." Father, no! Justice fight. It was kind of funny. That's the reason why I call it Justice Fight, because the second ending, which sounds like a choir of warriors, like, it's epic in its own right. Both ending theme songs are awesome. Like, I thought they were both really cool. I think the first Justice Fight is a little better, but I also like the second one because it just sounds like a choir of warriors, a choir of men. Like a choir of epic men being all like, "Yes, we are men. We enjoy throwing balls, and not testicles. We mean actual balls with sports involved." and eating meat and growing facial hair. That kind of thing. But they're both really cool songs. Obviously both sung in Japanese. The dub didn't really translation I seemed fine, but they didn't do too many like dubisms as far as I can tell. I imagine they still have to like dub. They still technically have to dub the lip flaps, but it's more like you're dubbing the vibration of the mouth of the Gundam. It's like, okay, are you sure he was vibrating there? But that was mainly it. And I think there was probably one moment where like a character's mouth opened, like, but it was probably like just like, I don't know. I'm sure there was something. I'm sure. And it was 3D animation, but it still looks pretty good. I believe the backgrounds were in 2D, or were like hand drawn anime. I think, I don't remember. I actually am probably gonna try and find an alternative source. I tried finding a DVD of this, but I don't think they never did. And I found bootlegs, but I don't want to do bootlegs. I want to fucking either just download the episodes myself for archiving purposes, or get it on DVD, which I'm surprised they have, because I'm pretty sure Sunrise had the rights to it. I'm pretty sure they took this and put it on the North American market, quote unquote. I don't know if you can call YouTube a market. If you're just, I don't know. If there actually is an official way to get these on DVD, like an actual like official thingy, let me know. But I liked it. I liked seeing what they did differently with the Dynasty Warriors stuff, and I thought seeing all the Gundams was cool. Because I'm not really that into Gundam, but the Gundams I do like I like G Gundam, and I like SD Gundam, and the reason why I like G Gundam is because they actually move the Gundams with their bodies, doing like I don't know what it's like. They put on those suits and like it controls the gun. I liked that. And also the shonen elements, and this one kind of has a bit of shonen elements as well. Just the idea of the journey, and also sort of like that sacred power, that sacred weapon. You know, Ryubi always did like his Trinity / attack, and characters had like interesting like attacks in this. Like it was almost kind of Saint Seiya like, where it's just like my ultimate attack, Wild Tiger Roar Strike attack, Super Wild Tiger Roar Strike Blast attack, or whatever I said. But it was yeah, I actually really liked it. I don't remember too much of it, to be honest, but I'm gonna try to. I might even say it's probably my second favorite Gundam series, maybe. That's not saying too much, but I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it a lot. It was pretty easy to watch too. Like it was 50 episodes or so, but they were like 11-minute episodes. We did have to switch viewing sources at one point because, you know, obviously since it's not off YouTube anymore, we had to watch it somewhere else. But the website we were watching was giving me just so much trouble because of my poo-poo computer. But we switched over to a source that actually made things a lot easier. But and I think it might have been an alternate thing as well, because they subtitled the ending theme as well as when it came during like the final battle. So I'm wondering if someone just took the dub and put like subs to like the songs, which personally, it's useful because I am kind of I always am playing around with the idea of like, oh, it'd be cool to organize a fan dub of the song and get singers and whatnot. But at the same time, I personally don't care. I just like the song. It's an awesome song, and that's why I call it Justice Fight, because it's an awesome song and it really drives home the idea of Ryubi's want for justice and benevolence and peace for Mauritia, aka China. They even called the last episode Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I'm like, that's funny. That's real funny. And when that happened, like, Sam and I were both like, ooh, they said it. They said it. They'd be like, I will become the true Dynasty Warrior. Oh, they didn't actually say that, but it would have been cool if they did. But, yeah. I enjoyed the show. like I said, I thought the story was a nice blend of um, sticking to the source material, quote unquote, but also adding some original stuff to it and sort of putting more to it. Um, and it was left a little open because they show Salpy, who's a Cao Cao's son, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I think there was a second anime actually. So I don't know if I'll watch it. We'll see. Um, I'm pretty sure there might have been there has to have been more stuff because like I said, Stan and I, we did watch like the what we thought was a movie but ended up being like a OVA like thing. It was more like a side piece because it was during like the Yellow Turban stuff. I think who like the lead. I'm pretty sure it was the Yellow Turban. That's the only thing I can think of because it's when Wu Wei and Shu are like working together, and so I'm pretty sure it's the Yellow Turban stuff because I know that's when they were doing it. In which the leader of the bad guys, like he had like this, he sounded kind of derpy. He sounded like a bit of a nerd. And he sounded like he was like what 20 something. His voice wasn't that menacing, so he didn't really come across as being that evil to me. But it was a good show, and I definitely would recommend it if you like Dynasty Warriors or Gundam or both. And I know there are action figures, so if you just want to watch a show to get more action figures, then yeah, that's definitely worth it. But yeah, this is Flamsaron, aka YouTube Sasuke, signing out. See you later.